Good morning, Synod, and thank you, Sharon. Just a few opening comments from me as chair of the Community Engagement Focus Group. Our group continued to meet on Zoom during lockdown, and our presentation reflects some of our learning, both as individuals and church communities during this time. A special thank you to each of the members of the focus group who are all involved in today's presentation. Chris Childs, Stephen Hart, Annette Shannon, and Karen Galloway. Karen has asked me to mention that she is part of the group in a personal capacity and not as the diocesan safeguarding lead, a role in which many of us, of course, know her. So then, to remind you of our remit, as Bishop Martin said, it is to be outward focused and to look at ways of increasing our service and engagement with our local community. We found that our experience during COVID restrictions enabled us to focus more clearly on what church is and what church is for. What church is and what church is for. Many of us found that even in the height of lockdown, we did become more deeply connected to our communities in prayerful and practical ways. You will all have examples of that, I'm sure. We found again the power of being a prayerful Christian presence within our communities, both in person and also in new ways, online. We extended our reach to be Christ-centered. Prayer, the beginning, the middle, and the end of our engagement. This prayerful Christian presence is transformative. That is what the church is for, to transform. During our presentation now, Stephen will begin by exploring the three core elements we identified which underpin this engagement: confidence, convening, and co-working. We will then watch video clips of three examples of prayerful engagement in action in dealing with food poverty, helping to cope with loss, and supporting emotional and mental well-being. Annette and Chris both feature in these videos. Karen then will lead us to our conclusion, which is a call to prayer in words and music, and will introduce the questions for discussion. All within 35 minutes, we trust. And thank you. Stephen is now going to carry on.
Good morning. I'm Stephen Hart and I'm based in the Saxmundham Deanery and have been part of this working group for the last few years. When our focus group began meeting, we concentrated on what was distinctive about our service and engagement with the wider community. The words prayerful Christian presence were foundational, and we identified three areas of focus for our activity. The first of these was confidence, speaking naturally and confidently about our faith. What do we have to give that will make a difference in other people's lives? We need to be comfortable talking about God in language people understand. For example, using invitation and nurturing spiritual interest. So how do we open the door and encourage people in? What is in our shop window? For example, prayer trees or prayer space. How confident are we that what we have to offer is worth having? It is worth having. The second one was convening. This is being a Christian presence and bringing people from the wider community together with purpose. This involves using our place and presence in the community to benefit the community, to nurture kingdom values and awareness of God at work in the world, envisioning others to come together with us, to see and respond to the needs around us. And finally, co-working. This means listening, praying, learning, and giving alongside others. This will involve working jointly with other organisations to meet the needs already identified, being a prayerful and active presence to accomplish work in keeping with the agreed goals. It will require sacrificial giving and Christ-like leadership and humility. During lockdown, we found that opportunities to do all of these things arose naturally and almost counterintuitively. We were able to reach out in new ways and different ways. Doing church differently became a popular expression. Zoom and online services were able to run alongside practical caring in the community for those in greatest need. In summary, we prayed, we showed resilience, and we learned how to adapt. So now we have these three examples of being a prayerful Christian presence, which you will see in a moment. Thank you.
So now we have then the first of our video clips, which is looking at food poverty, and there have been many responses to food poverty. We have now a short video of Dave's story about the pop-up shop at All Hallows Church, which we trust will come up now. Thank you.
Of a basic The shop is part of a basic life pop-up shop for the community. What we do is on a Tuesday we open up for the community to come through. It came about with Carol posting a prayer card through my door. I phoned Carol, asked her if there was anything I could do, and she asked me to come along on a Tuesday, come through the shop. I spoke to Carol a couple of weeks later and asked if she would like some fresh veg off of my allotment. To save it going to waste, I thought it would be ideal to bring to the shop on a Tuesday for the community to have some fresh veg. I now help put out the stuff, tidy away. It's just so peaceful. Many people have said how they do appreciate the time and effort that goes into producing the stuff. It's given me a lot of room to think of my faith, and this has all came through being at the shop in the church on a Tuesday. It has brought me onto this journey, and hopefully this journey will go on for a little bit longer.
Our next video clip is looking at the area of coping with loss and bereavement, and Annette Shannon is in discussion with some members from her church. And this is the next one for us to be looking at and praying about.
We're very conscious through the pandemic that people had suffered all sorts of bereavement, loss of jobs, loss of structure to their day, loss of social supports, all those kind of things. But we're talking particularly today about the loss of people that they loved. So I'm very conscious that we need to respond to people's emotional, physical and spiritual needs. And I just feel very grateful that we thought of the idea of the tree, because it has brought the community together. It's enabled us to reach people we'd never normally have met. So we had some lovely pastoral conversations. around the churchyard afterwards. What we did is provided discs in the community shops, in the church porches, anywhere really where we could get out to people, with Sharpie pens that we purchased as well, and people could take away the discs and decorate them, hang them on the tree in the lead up to the service, or they could hang them up afterwards, or they could just leave them in the boxes, and we actually went round and collected them and hung them on the tree for them.
So our remembrance tree is right in the middle of the churchyard. It's a lovely shaped crabapple tree, and it's visible from the road.
And you could just come out of your garden in your trousers and your boots on, get up, you know, and everybody was welcome, and that was very relaxed but very emotional.
Being outside, it was more acceptable for people to come who perhaps would not normally have come to church.
And our third video clip features Reverend Chris Childs in discussion with Bob Hamilton, talking about the area of emotional well-being and mental health. Thank you.
For those of you who don't know, Kintsugi Hope is a charity in the UK, and it strives to make a difference to people's mental well-being. And the word kintsugi is a Japanese technique for repairing pottery with seams of gold. And the word means golden joinery in Japanese. And the idea is the repairs repair the brokenness in a way that makes the object more beautiful. And the idea is it hides the scars, but it doesn't hide the scars, sorry, but makes a feature of them. So, Chris, I believe you're going to share us an example of this in your practice.
I'm sure many of us in our ministry have examples that would align with this particular concept. Now, about 3 years ago, in my previous group of parishes, we suffered 3 people who had taken their own lives, and it was in a relatively short space of time. Now, as a result of this sadness, we prayed quite hard and wondered really what we were doing. Out of that, we realized that we weren't where the people are or where the people might be. We were waiting for them to come to us, which we shouldn't really do. We decided that we should do something, and we convened a meeting with Age UK, who have a large shop in that particular parish, and who were going to open a cafe in one corner of it, because we thought we might follow the model of Meet-up Mondays, but we needed a bit more advice and help, so we were in touch with our old friends, the wonderful Rural Coffee Caravan, and together the 3 of us opened one Monday in the corner of the Age UK shop, and it was quite successful, and quite a lot of the people we didn't know at all. Quite a few good relationships were created there. And during the pandemic, the ministry team was able to support people. Obviously, we can't claim gold for anything, can we? But I think we might claim a bit of a dusty bronze. And it seems to me this is a fair example of this concept of kintsugi, about which we have been thinking.
I think it's so good that you're talking about different partnerships in the community. I think that's the way forward, and it would be great to see a world where mental and emotional health is understood and accepted, which is what kintsugi is aiming at.
Good morning, Synod. You've heard some ideas from the group of ways to reach out and engage with the community. But what makes the church different to other organisations? What makes us unique? At the heart of the examples we've heard about this morning is prayer. We've heard from Bishop Martin about the call to prayer. In her introduction, Carol talked to us about a call to prayer, and this is the challenge that we want to give to Synod today. Alongside the practical help we can bring to the community, prayer is a unique gift that individuals, parishes, and beneficiaries can share. The community engagement group wants to set a challenge. We want to call you to prayer. In your busy lives and when you are helping and working in the community, we want you to do 3 things for us. Could I have the next slide, please? The first thing is to say, stop, and take time to ask God to help us, to help those who are suffering, to help us to bring about a profound, transformative change in the lives of others, to offer prayer as well as practical help for people in need. Could I have the next slide, please? The second thing we'd like you to do is to look. We want to encourage you to be confident in your beliefs. Look closely and prayerfully at your community. Assert what is distinctively Christian about your presence in the community. Remember, prayer is a unique feature we bring to all that we do. We don't need to hide it. We need to share it. And the third thing, if I could have the next slide, please, is we want to encourage you to listen to others, to help them to recognize and understand what their own spiritual needs may be, to pray with them and help them on their spiritual journey. Could we have the next slide, please? Earlier this morning, Stephen spoke about our three themes: confidence, convening, and co-working. And we hope that with our examples, you can see some of the ways in which these things can be carried out in the community. We ask that you share these themes with your parish and pray about how you can, in your groups, in your local communities, put them into practice alongside prayer. In our final video, if I could have the next slide, please, we're going to hear Reverend Kieran Note's call to prayer. He wrote this poem, The Mirror, as a response to the crisis in the National Health Service, which occurred because of the pandemic. It talks about the overwhelming impact it has had on people's physical and mental health. What I would like Synod to just think about is that it is a very different style to one that most of us may be used to. Some people may find it challenging. Others may not like it, and some of you may absolutely love it because it's so different. But in the spirit of reaching out to all in our communities, we ask you to please listen with an open mind. At the end of the video, we will have a moment of silence for our own personal reflections. Thank you. If we could play the video, please.
Yep, listen. I got two moods, angry and introspective, I lie. I'm just feeling reductive, reducing me to a mirror. Not much fun in the house, mood killer. Not quite lost my mind, but misplaced it between my reflection and where I place myself. Do I pace myself? Do I race myself? Do I hate myself? Can you spot a spiral when you hear? Before the sirens come near, crisis in the homestead I fear. Don't want breakfast, just grab a beer. Bad habits rear their heads in a static. Bats with steel cap boots in an attic. Bottle my grief, knock down a shot, put me down to peg, and I run till I pop. Don't stop, tell me don't stop. They tell me don't stop, but don't pay the cost. I got bare claps and an entry-level salary. Cold comfort swallowing their tragedy. Yeah. That's a cold comfort swallowing their tragedy. Listen. Prolonged traumatic stress disorders, it makes us frayed at the borders. It causes opposing forces to collide on doctors and nurses. I don't have a way to ventilate my brain, so I go stir crazy, stir it up again. Flick, click, stare, prayer, tears go out for air in a mask. I pass a reflection in the street, catch a breath, cause the space in the puddle doesn't look like me. I got sharp cheeks and I look like I haven't seen a soul in weeks at the peakest peak. I got numb feet from the race. Sometimes I job means staring death in the face on the days I blink. It's hard to keep from sinking. So look, on the day we come up for air, have a care. Cast your cares on the ones who care. When the air is dangerous, the fear is loud and they can't save us. I don't know the inside story, I only imagine the burden gnawing at your calling. Are you falling? That praise and pressure is appalling. Inconsistently supported, you deserve much more. You fought for my breath. Maybe now I fight for yours. You fought for my breath. Maybe now I should fight for yours. The track's gonna run, and we're gonna pray. I just invite you to pray for the people who cannot bear their burdens.